Your grandfather's victory garden wasn't just about growing food. It was about growing the right food. Because, believe it or not, there are 15 dangerous, beautiful, or monstrous crops that once filled American dinner tables but are now completely banned from your backyard. The Victorian poison castor bean. In the elegant gardens of the Victorian era, before meticulous pruning and perfect lawns became the suburban ideal, there was one towering ornamental that demanded attention. With its dramatic, star-shaped leaves and striking crimson pods, the castor bean plant was the darling of the landscape, a temporary burst of the tropics grown right on your northern doorstep. Our great-grandparents loved them for their bold look. The beans yielded castor oil, a sticky, infamous staple in every medicine cabinet, used for everything from treating ailments to lubricating machinery. But hidden beneath the gloss of those beautifully speckled seeds was a secret far darker than any oil. Inside every single pod lurked ricin, one of the most deadly natural toxins known to science. Just a handful of seeds contains enough poison to kill an adult. As America shifted after World War II and sprawling suburban neighborhoods filled with young families and playing children, this risk became unacceptable. Garden clubs stopped recommending them. Nurseries stopped stocking them. And eventually, this towering beauty was quietly removed from backyards across the nation. The price of beauty, our society decided, was simply too high when it hit a deadly weapon. The miracle that ate the South kudzu. Before it became a monster, kudzu was a promise, a green leafy hero hailed by government agencies during the Dust Bowl and Great Depression. Farmers were actually paid to plant it, believing this miracle crop would feed livestock, stop the wind from stealing their topsoil, and even feed families during the hardest times. And it offered genuine benefits. The leaves are rich in protein and could be cooked like spinach. The flowers were brewed into delicate jellies, and its massive roots could be processed into flour. But kudzu had conquest in mind, not cooperation. Once it hit the warm, fertile soil of the American South, it became unstoppable, an invasive tide that grew up to 1 foot per day. This wonder plant smothered everything in its path: ancient oak trees, abandoned buildings, power lines, and entire fields. Today, kudzu blankets well over 7 million acres across the South, continuing to spread at a relentless rate of 150,000 acres every year. The economic damage from its aggressive conquest runs into billions of dollars annually. It remains the ultimate, sprawling, cautionary tale, proving that no matter how beneficial a foreign species appears, it can quickly turn into an ecological nightmare. The 15-foot fairy tale, giant hogweed. When it first arrived, the giant hogweed looked like something pulled straight from a dark fairy tale. Commanding attention with towering stalks that reached 15 feet tall and enormous white flower heads spanning 2 feet across, Victorian gardeners eagerly imported it as an ornamental showpiece. Some adventurous souls even tried preparing the thick young stems, similar to how rhubarb is eaten in parts of Europe, believing this giant held edible secrets. But this dramatic plant harbored a sinister core. Its sap contains chemicals that, when exposed to sunlight, cause a horrific reaction known as phytophotodermatitis. The result isn't a simple rash, it's severe burns, agonizing, blistering, and often permanent scarring. Children playing hide-and-seek near a patch have ended up hospitalized with injuries that looked like third-degree burns. By the 1970s, authorities recognized the hogweed as a genuine public menace, declaring it too dangerous for any backyard. Today, it's illegal to plant, sell, or transport in most states. A gorgeous giant whose beauty truly carried a deadly curse. Grandma's secret sin, opium poppies. Those beautiful, delicate blooms swaying in your grandmother's garden weren't as innocent as they looked. Before the federal crackdown, opium poppies produced some of the most stunning flowers imaginable, soft tissue paper petals in shades of pink, white, and deep purple that would make any gardener proud. For generations, the tiny black seeds were a perfectly acceptable kitchen staple, sprinkled on bread, rolls, and used freely in baking across America. But here's the bitter irony that landed them on the forbidden list. Those same graceful pods, once the mark of a beautiful garden, also contained the raw materials for morphine and heroin. For centuries, this plant fed families and beautified homes, but as drug abuse escalated, federal authorities in the 1950s decided the risk to society was simply too great. Even growing them purely for their ornamental qualities or their edible seeds became strictly illegal, regardless of how pure your intentions were. It's a tragic tale of how one plant, beloved for its beauty and utility, became forbidden fruit because of the danger that tragically lurked beneath its innocent exterior. The urban wrecker Japanese knotweed. The young hollow shoots of Japanese knotweed were once a prized seasonal delicacy. With a tart, lemony flavor similar to rhubarb, this plant was highly valued in its native lands, with the spring stalks pickled, stir-fried, or added to soups, a rich source of vitamins and a staple in traditional Asian cuisine for centuries. But in America, the knotweed earned a far more frightening nickname: the most invasive plant in the world. This wasn't just a garden nuisance. It was a creeping ecological and architectural terrorist. Once established, its roots burrowed over 10 feet deep and spread horizontally for up to 60 feet, easily cracking foundations, destroying driveways, and overwhelming native plants. Worse still, a single fragment of its root or stem can start an entirely new colony, making it virtually impossible to eliminate without industrial effort. Property owners have faced crippling lawsuits for letting it spread to neighboring land, and some states now impose hefty fines just for allowing it to exist on your lot. What began as a tasty herb became a monumental financial and structural threat, proof that sometimes the most aggressive plants don't just kill your garden, they can destroy your home. The beautiful water killer water hyacinth. Back when water gardens were the height of fashion, gardeners looked for plants that offered both elegance and vigor. Water hyacinth, with its stunning purple flowers and attractive appearance, seemed like a perfect fit. Its thick, spongy leaf stalks even considered edible in some Asian cuisines. The young leaves and flower buds were a pleasant, slightly sweet addition to soups and stir-fries, making it a beloved ornamental that doubled as a snack. But the hyacinth's beauty masked an insatiable, sinister nature. It is officially one of the world's fastest-growing plants, capable of doubling its population every 2 weeks under ideal conditions. What starts as a small patch quickly forms dense, impenetrable mats that clog up waterways, stop boat traffic, and become deadly to wildlife. By completely covering the water surface, these mats block sunlight and rapidly deplete oxygen levels, essentially turning vibrant lakes and rivers into biological deserts. The plant has caused millions of dollars in damage to fisheries and water systems across America. Today, even simply possessing this deceptively beautiful water killer can result in significant fines. The altitudes and the law. Coca plants. This unassuming shrub, with its small, glossy leaves, could easily pass for a decorative hedge in any American suburb. But the modest coca plant carries the weight of a powerful history and the full force of federal law, a classic clash between traditional culture and modern drug policy. In its native South America, indigenous people have been chewing coca leaves for thousands of years, using them to combat altitude sickness, fight fatigue, and provide sustained energy. It's as much a staple of their cultural heritage as morning coffee is to us. The leaves themselves are not the problem. It is the industrial processing that creates the danger. Nonetheless, American law treats this plant with absolute zero tolerance.
Even cultivating a single coca plant in a private greenhouse is viewed as evidence of drug manufacturing intent, triggering massive penalties. This is the tragic truth of a botanical heritage crossing a modern border.
A plant that offers sustenance, tradition, and energy to millions in one corner of the world becomes absolute contraband the moment it lands on American soil. The wetland dominator purple loosestrife. For Victorian flower enthusiasts, the purple loosestrife was a masterpiece. With its tall, majestic spikes of brilliant purple blooms, it brought stunning, vibrant color to wetland gardens and was adored by beekeepers because it provided abundant nectar for honey production. The young leaves were even traditionally used as a potherb in European cuisine, cooked up like chard or spinach, making it a plant that was both beautiful and useful. But the loosestrife held wetland domination deep in its DNA. What seemed like a beautiful addition to a pond garden soon revealed itself to be a devastating ecological threat. A single plant is capable of producing well over 2 million seeds per year, quickly forming impenetrable, dense stands. These stands aggressively crowd out native plants like cattails and sedges, destroying essential habitat for waterfowl, fish, and countless other native wetland species. What was introduced as an elegant ornamental became a costly ecological disaster that has since required millions of dollars in control efforts. It's a clear reminder that sometimes the most beautiful things in the garden are actually the greatest destroyers. The desert button and the spirit peyote. This small, unassuming desert plant doesn't look dangerous at all. Unlike its spiny, rugged cousins, the peyote cactus grows low to the ground with a soft, button-like appearance that seems almost friendly, yet it harbors a spiritual power that transcends mere botany. For well over 1,000 years, those innocent-looking buttons have been central to Native American religious ceremonies, a sacred plant used to connect with the divine. The cultivation of peyote is an act of deep patience and ritual, with the plant often taking a decade to mature before it truly starts producing. But inside those same buttons lies mescaline, a powerful hallucinogen. American federal law recognizes the ancient heritage of the cactus by carving out a very narrow religious exemption for enrolled tribal members. For everyone else, however, growing this slow, sacred desert plant is strictly forbidden. This is a plant caught between two worlds, one of deep spiritual significance and one of absolute zero-tolerance enforcement, where a sacred tradition becomes illegal the moment it leaves the reservation. The velvet blanket of death, giant salvinia. Up next is giant salvinia. This floating aquatic fern might look delicate, with its small, soft, velvety leaves resting innocently on the surface of a pond. In some cultures, the young fronds of the giant salvinia were actually harvested and prepared as an aquatic vegetable, cooked like other leafy greens. It seemed harmless enough, a pretty, seemingly fragile plant floating gently on the water. But the giant salvinia earned its banishment by transforming from a delicate plant into a suffocating threat. Under ideal conditions, this tiny fern can double its biomass every few days, rapidly forming thick, dense mats that completely cover vast water surfaces. This creates what scientists call a biological desert. By blocking every ray of sunlight and depleting all the oxygen, the mat kills virtually everything underneath, turning vibrant lakes and rivers into stagnant, lifeless pools. With no natural predators in North America, this plant is virtually unstoppable once established. Even merely possessing this tiny, seemingly innocent velvet blanket can result in significant fines in most states. Don't let the name fool you, Tree of Heaven. The Tree of Heaven is anything but angelic. This fast-growing species was once celebrated in American cities for its sheer grit, able to thrive in the worst soil and polluted air, providing quick shade where no other tree could survive. In some traditional medicines, parts of the tree were even valued for various ailments, earning it a temporary welcome in early urban landscapes. But this tree lived up to its aggressive, self-serving reputation. It spreads relentlessly through both root suckers and wind-dispersed seeds, quickly forming dense colonies that choke out native trees. Worse still, its roots are incredibly strong, powerful enough to crack sidewalks and damage building foundations. The Tree of Heaven also releases chemicals into the soil, inhibiting the growth of everything around it. Most recently, it has gained notoriety as the preferred primary host for the spotted lanternfly, an invasive pest that is currently devastating valuable fruit crops and forests across the eastern United States. What was welcomed as a hardy urban friend quickly became a host for disaster. Today, many states require its immediate removal and reporting, a heavenly name hiding a truly hellish menace. The conservation autumn olive. Government agencies used to plant the autumn olive with pride. In the 1950s and 60s, this shrub was championed as a conservation hero, a fast-growing, hardy solution for erosion control, and a guaranteed food source for wildlife. Hunters loved it because its dense thickets attracted game birds, and the small, speckled red berries themselves were surprisingly nutritious, boasting levels of lycopene far exceeding that of most tomatoes. It was a beneficial plant, offering tart, delicious fruit, perfect for jams, jellies, and sauces. But like so many well-intentioned introductions, the autumn olive had other plans. Its seeds were carried far and wide by the very birds it was meant to feed. causing it to spread like wildfire across the landscape. It quickly formed dense, impenetrable thickets, crowding out vital native plants and disrupting the natural balance. Worse still, the autumn olive can fix nitrogen in the soil, which changes the ground's chemistry and degrades native communities that thrive on low-nutrient soils. What was planted for conservation became an invasive nightmare that requires costly, expensive control efforts to eradicate. It stands as a profound reminder that even the best intentions in the garden can go terribly wrong. The stolen staple water spinach, kangkong. Imagine a leafy green that you could harvest continuously, that regrows within days of being cut and is packed with nutrients. Water spinach, or kangkong, is exactly that. A fast-growing staple in Southeast Asian kitchens, prized for its mild, pleasant flavor and hollow stems that work perfectly in stir-fries and curries. Sounds like the absolute perfect garden crop, right? In America, this highly productive plant is almost entirely banned. The reason, again, lies in its unstoppable vigor. Water spinach is so aggressive that it quickly spreads through any waterway, turning irrigation canals, rice paddies, and ditches into dense, crowded mazes. Even a small fragment of a stem is enough to establish an entirely new, unmanageable colony, suffocating native aquatic life and clogging water systems essential for farming in communities. It is so notoriously invasive that in some states, lawmakers classify even possessing the seeds of this desirable vegetable as a criminal offense. Sometimes, the cruelest twist of fate is that the most useful and productive plants are also the most dangerous to the established ecosystem. The living barbed wire Multiflora rose. There was a time when government agencies promoted planting the Multiflora rose with patriotic vigor. During World War II, when citrus was scarce, the tiny red rose hips were championed as a vital vitamin supplement, packed with more vitamin C than most citrus fruits. Beyond the hips, the thorny canes were planted extensively across farms as living fences, the perfect, self-sustaining barrier to keep livestock contained while providing food and cover for birds. But the Multiflora rose had conquest, not cooperation, on its mind. What was intended as a friendly barrier became an impenetrable wall. Its tenacious, thorny canes grow up to 15 feet long, forming dense, thorny thickets that are impossible for humans or large animals to penetrate. It aggressively crowds out native plant life, creating massive, biologically simplified barriers that provide poor habitat compared to indigenous alternatives. Today, this plant, which was introduced and planted with such pride by earlier generations, is now banned in most states. Property owners now spend thousands trying to eliminate the very hedges their grandparents thought would be a sustainable source of food and security. The hidden scourge garlic mustard. This plant looks entirely innocent, heart-shaped leaves and small white flowers. But the unassuming garlic mustard was deliberately brought to America by early European settlers, who prized it as both food and medicine. The leaves offer a subtle, appealing garlic flavor and were commonly added to salads and cooked dishes, serving as a valuable spring green that provided fresh nutrition after long, harsh winters of preserved foods. But this seemingly useful herb harbored a secret chemical agenda. Garlic mustard is an ecological terrorist, deploying a process called allelopathy. It releases potent chemicals into the soil that actively prevent the seeds of other plants from germinating and growing. Worse yet, it spreads aggressively, forming dense, choking carpets that smother native wildflowers and completely disrupt entire forest ecosystems. What was once considered a beneficial spring delicacy soon earned its place on noxious weed lists across the country, showing us that an ancestral herb, transplanted from a foreign soil, can quickly turn into a hidden scourge on the American landscape. These 15 forbidden crops tell the incredible story of how America learned the hard way that not all plants make good neighbors. Did you ever guess these forbidden crops? Comment down below and hit that subscribe button to discover more forgotten secrets from America's past. And like this video if you learned something new about your garden.